Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for joining in for our monthly webinar. This month, we're taking a look at routing charges throughout Roomkey PMS. So just an outline for today's presentation. We'll start with some introductions. Then we'll dive right into a definition of what is charge routing and some notes about how charges are routed in Roomkey. Then we'll take a look at some examples in a database. We'll look at examples for how to route to the same booking, how to route to a different booking, how to route by amount, and we'll also look at some of the automated routing tools that are available with our corporate accounts, wholesaler accounts, and group blocks. Then we'll wrap up today's presentation with a summary and Q&A. So just taking a look at our introductions for today, my name is Tasha LeClaire. I'm a trainer and implementation specialist with Roomkey. Joining me today, I do have our Director of Customer Experience, William Tam. I'll be leading today's presentation and the demonstrations on screen, and William will oversee the Q&A. If you have any questions throughout today's presentation, you are on mute, but go ahead and click that Q&A button. You'll be able to type in a question. William will be able to answer. And if there's any questions that are remaining towards the end of our presentation, we can address those in our Q&A section at the end as well. A couple more things about today's live webinar presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be made available on our support website. So if you've registered for our webinar series, you'll receive a notification once that is available on our support website, usually within 1 or 2 days. For those of you that are attending our live webinar presentation today, we do have a webinar survey at the end of our presentation. We appreciate any feedback you're able to provide about our performance on today's topic, and if you have any recommendations for future topics. Okay, so getting right into our topic for today, charge routing and routing charges across the property management software. I just wanted to take a moment to define what is charge routing. For Roomkey PMS users, the process of directing specific guest charges to a designated folio, a designated booking, or a designated account or city ledger account. So we've got a couple of different ways that we can route charges within the system. Taking a closer look at a couple of these, when you are routing charges to a folio on the same booking, you will notice that those charges are routed immediately, so as soon as they're posted, while the guest is in-house. So if the guest wants to split billing across 2 separate folios or 2 separate bills, that will apply immediately as soon as you apply the charge. When you are routing charges across different bookings, so between guests in different rooms or different reservations, that routing will not occur until the guest checks out. So that charge routing direction occurs or is applied at the time of checkout, not while the guest is in-house. Then when it comes to routing charges to an account, like a city ledger account or a house account, those charges will also be routed at the time of checkout. So it does not occur while the guest is in-house. It will occur during checkout. And we'll see examples of all 3 of these throughout today's presentation. Couple more things about routing. Regardless of the type of routing you're doing, if it's to a folio, a separate folio, separate booking, or an account, all of these routing directions are applied to the full guest stay. So when we apply routing instructions, it cannot be applied per date or date range. It applies to the full guest stay. Lastly, we do have a tip from our support and training team. We do strongly recommend that anytime you are putting in routing or setting up routing for any type of reservation, we always recommend you use the res note field to clearly communicate those billing instructions on an individual reservation. That ensures that the reservations team, the front desk team, and any of the accounting team has a clear idea of what is communicated for those billing instructions for those routing on that particular reservation. So we'll see that throughout today's presentations as well. Okay, so diving right into our first example, I wanted to take a look at some examples of how to route to the same booking. And this example, we're going to use a demo database to route parking charges to Folio 2. So we'll make a guest reservation and we'll see how we can split charges across multiple bills for one single guest. I have a video here that's about 2 minutes in length that's going to show that process, and it'll also show how the charges are split at the time that they're posted while the guest is in-house. So starting here with the reservation, you'll follow the same steps that you would to make a reservation. You'll select the rate, book the room type, and then when you get to the guest info tab, you'll enter the guest information. And then I recommend coming down here to the Res Note field, and this is where you'll put those billing instructions. So in this case, parking charges are going to go to Folio 2. Now we can move over to the Routing tab, and this is where we can use the transaction group to select Other Charge. We're going to select the parking charge specifically, and we're going to route to the same booking by placing a check mark there and selecting Folio 2 from the drop-down menu, and then I'll click Add. So that will now show a line item. Those are our routing instructions, parking charges going to Folio 2 on the same folio. I'll just go ahead and click OK. And here's the reservation. So for this reservation for Sabrina Helzer, I can go ahead and check her in. Just like you would a regular reservation, we'll just authorize for room and tax plus $100. This property does use our Full Steam credit card interface, so it'll just get an approval message there for the authorization, and those res notes will appear. So just a reminder for the check-in agent that there is some routing instructions. Here on the guest folio, you'll see that the room charge is automatically posted. And now when I go to the post charges button to post a parking charge, let me just go ahead and select parking here. You'll see I have a route to. And when it says 0, I know that it's going to the same booking, but a different folio. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And now when I see that charge appear, I'll notice that it actually appears on Folio 2 because those routing instructions on the reservation require that charge to go to Folio 2 on that same booking. Great. So that can be really helpful if you have any guests that want to keep their room charges and incidental charges separate. In that example, we just use parking as the example with the incidental charges there. The next scenario or example that we're looking at is routing to a different booking. Now, this can occur if you have guests that are traveling together, maybe multiple guest rooms or multiple bookings, but they want all of their billing on one booking. So the example that I'm going to use here is a family that's traveling together. I'm actually going to use my family, so um, I'm going to have one booking for my parents, Mike LeClaire, and then I'm going to make a second booking for myself, Tasha LeClaire, and I'm going to route me, the kids' room charges, to my parents' room charges. Now, just a reminder, with this video, it's a little bit longer because it does show the process of creating those bookings, including the routing instructions. And then just a reminder, when you are setting up routing to a different booking, routing charges to a different booking will occur at the time of checkout. So we will post some charges. You'll see them appear in the separate guest folios, and then at the time of checkout, you'll see those charges then route to the parents' room in this example. There we go. So again, starting with a standard reservation process, we'll search for availability, select the rate, and book the room. And then we'll go to the guest info, and I'm going to make the reservation for the parents, my dad, Mike, first. And I'm going to include this res note indicating that this is a reservation one of two, and that all charges for both bookings are to go to this reservation. Once I include that res note, I'll then click OK to complete the booking, and I'll now see the reservation for Mike LeClaire on screen. I'm going to right-click on the reservation and select New Res Add-on. That is a shortcut for copying over that existing reservations to make a second booking. So again, I'll just review the booking information for this second booking here. And in this case, instead of booking the DK room type, I'm going to book a different room type, the D2D. That's going to be for myself. Here on the guest info tab, you'll notice that it copies over Mike LeClaire's information, but because this is for a different guest, I'm just going to change this to my name, Tasha LeClaire. And always remember to add the res note. In this case, for this reservation, this is reservation 2 of 2, and I'm going to route all charges to my original reservation for Mike LeClaire. So over here on my routing tab, I'm going to select transaction group all, means all charges are going to be routed. Here in my filtered by selection, I'll use reservations. That way I can select the future reservation for Mike LeClaire, res ID 1384, and select add. Now that adds my routing instruction to the top here. I can see all charges for this reservation are going to go to a different booking, guest name Mike LeClaire. And when I click OK to complete the booking, I'm just going to update the guest info so that it shows my name for this booking instead of Mike. Now for Mike's reservation, I'm just going to review the reservation notes, make sure that they are correct for both of these bookings, reservation 1 of 1 and 2 of 2. Let me go ahead and check in these reservations. This process will look the same as a regular check-in, so we're just going to go ahead and authorize the credit card and complete, oh, there we go, authorizing the credit card. Perfect. So that's the first reservation checked in, and of course that reservation note appears on screen as part of the check-in process. And I'll make sure that I'm checking in the second reservation. And again, authorizing the credit card. Perfect. And of course, that second reservation note shows up for that second reservation as well. Great. So like I said, while the guest is in-house for this type of routing, you'll see the room charge for the first reservation and the room charge for the second reservation. Those will appear on their respective reservations. Now, if I go ahead and post charges, we will get an indication that there is some routing to occur. It's going to let me know that at the time of checkout, it's going to be routed to a different reservation, res ID 1384, whenever I apply this parking charge here to Tasha LeClaire's booking. Great. So now I'm going to show you what the checkout process looks like and how these charges will now route to the original booking. When I click checkout, I'm going to get this pop-up window that shows me the room charge and the parking charges are now going to be routed to the guest reservation 1384 when I click OK. Before I complete that checkout, let me just close here. I just wanted to show you what that transfer now looks like. So for this guest, my parents' room, I can see their room charge, and then I can see my room charge and my parking charge from my folio. If I go to my folio, I see the original room charge and parking charge, and then I also see a line item showing that those charges have been transferred over to Res ID 1384. And just a reminder again, that occurs at checkout. That does not happen at the time of posting. Great. So it's good to be mindful of when that routing instructions do take effect, whether they are being routed to the same booking, just a different folio, or if they're being routed to a different booking in this example, where we saw those charges do not actually transfer to the second booking or separate booking until the time of checkout. Okay. So in addition to being able to transfer charges to the same booking or a separate bookings, we also have the ability to um, split charges or route by amount across either the same booking or different bookings. Now, for this example, I'm going to use, for our first example here, I'm going to use an example where we are going to route 50% of a specific charge, in this case, the spa charges, to Folio 2. So this is going to go to the same booking, but just a separate folio, and it's going to split my spa charges. So it's going to split them in half there. One thing to note here for anytime that you're using a route by amount feature inside Roomkey, you will have to enable specific permission on your clerk ID. So for your clerk ID, you want to make sure that you have reservation management permission 1546 route by amount. And I have a little video here that's going to show us an example of routing this 50% of the spa charges to Folio 2. There's my mouse. Perfect. Okay. So once again, starting a regular booking, you'll search for availability, select the rate, and book the room type. Then on the guest info tab, you'll add the guest information. And towards the bottom left corner here, you'll use the Res Note field to enter in your routing instructions to communicate that information to your staff. Over here on the Routing tab, you'll go ahead and use the Transaction group to select Other Charge. And I'm going to use the Spa charge. And I'm going to route this to the same booking using Folio 2. Now I'm going to use the amount field to enter in 50% by selecting the percentage checkbox there and click the Add button. Now I'll see that routing instruction here for the spa charges are going to be routed to Folio 2 in the amount of 50%. Right. So I'm just going to skip ahead here and check in the guest. There's the guest, Lisa Montano, checked in. I can see her routing instructions in the reservation note there. And if I go to her folio, I can see that she's got a room charge. And now when I click post charges, I'm going to post a charge for a spa service. So let me go ahead here and select the spa code. I have a little indication that it's going to be routed. I've got the route to checkbox off to the right-hand side. And when I put in the amount here, let's say that this is a 90-minute massage for $260 plus tax. I'll go ahead and click OK Exit. And now I'll see that has been split. 50% has gone to Folio 2 in the amount of $130 plus tax. And then the other $130 plus tax remains on Folio 1. Perfect. Okay, so that allows you to split charges. Now, I did the example with splitting it between Folio 1 and Folio 2, just so that we could see that split occur at the time of posting. But of course, if you are splitting or using the route by amount and splitting charges across separate bookings, so if you're routing to a different booking, that split will not occur until checkout. Now let's take a look at another form of route by amount, and this time we're going to route by a dollar amount. I'm going to use the spa charges as an example again, but this time I'm going to route a specific amount, $100 of the spa charges to Folio 2. Again, just a reminder, anytime that you're using the route by amount feature in Roomkey, you must have this clerk permission enabled on your clerk ID, reservation management permission 1546, route by amount. That's going to allow you to use this route by amount functionality on the routing tab. So I have another little video that's going to show this demonstration of routing $100 spa charges to Folio 2. So I'm going to start with my standard reservation process. I'll select the rate, book the room type, and then off to the guest info tab, I'll add my guest information. And down here in the res note, I'm going to put in my billing instructions. I'm going to route $100 of the spa charges to Folio 2. And if I go up here to the routing tab, this is where I can enter that information for room key. I'll use the transaction group field to select other charge. In the transaction code, I'm going to select spa. I'm going to route to the same booking and select Folio 2. And in the amount field, I'm going to put $100. I can now click add, and that will now add that routing instruction as a line item at the top of my tab here. So $100 is going to go to Folio 2. I'm just going to skip ahead here, check in the guest. There it is, the reservation for Tony Davis. The routing instructions appear here in the reservation note on the reservation itself. And if I go to the Folio tab, I can see the room charge has automatically posted as part of the check-in process. Now, when I go to post charges, I'm going to post a charge, a spa charge for a spa service. There we go. This 60-minute massage is going to be in the amount of $160 plus tax. And I'll go ahead and click OK Exit. So for this 60-minute massage, I can see that on Folio 2, it posted $100 plus tax, and the remaining $60 remains on Folio 1. So that split happens at the time of posting because it's routed to the same folio, Folio 2. So route by amount is not as commonly used, but I do like to show a couple of demonstrations there of how you can apply and route charges or use that split between folios, for example. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is automated routing. So far, we've been looking at how to use the routing tab on a specific reservation to create or manually add routing instructions for an individual booking. For these automated routing examples, we're going to show how to use corporate accounts, group blocks, and wholesaler accounts to automate the routing instructions for room and tax. So the first example that I have here is using a corporate account. We're going to use room charges, or sorry, we're going to route room charges using a corporate account. So I have a video here that's going to demonstrate this process. It's a little bit longer because I will show you how to the routing instructions that are required on the corporate account, as well as how to book the reservation and then how to check out the reservation. Because a reminder here is that the routing instructions will only take effect at the time of checkout when you are checking out the guest. So we'll see that as part of this video. Now, one thing that is not included in this video is the process of creating a corporate account and setting up corporate rates. If you would like to know more information about creating and managing corporate accounts and corporate rates, definitely check out our corporates webinar training. We have that available on our support website. That's going to give you some more in-depth information. This is going to be a little more high level, just taking a look at the routing specific instructions. So here in Roomkey, we're going to start from the operations menu and select corporate. That's going to bring up my corporate module with a list of all of my corporate accounts inside the database. I'm just going to take a look at the ABC consultants here, and I wanted to bring your attention down to the attach note field in the bottom left corner. That's where you can add your instructions that will appear as a res note on the guest reservation. And for the folio number, this is where we can direct the room and tax charges. I recommend using folio 8 when you are doing direct billing. In this case here, we're also going to attach a City Ledger account. I'm just demonstrating here how you can do a search for an existing City Ledger account, in this case, ABC Consultants. Go ahead and select that account and ensure that there is a credit limit. If this is a brand new account, you can, of course, create a new account or city account in that method there. Either way, you want to make sure that there is an account located here before you click Post. Right. So once you have those components included as part of your routing instructions, of course, set up your account and your rates. Now, when you go through and make a reservation, your reservations team is going to use the corporate client type, select the account or the company, in this case, ABC Consultants, and make sure they select the corporate rate and the room type. Over here on the guest info tab, you're going to complete the guest information. And what you'll notice is that it pulls through that res note directly from the account as we set it up. So in this example, room and tax is direct billed to the City Ledger account for this ABC Consultants. I'm just going to jump ahead here and check in the reservation. There's the guest, James Kidwell. I can see the routing instructions and a note that this is part of the ABC Consultants corporate account. Over here on the guest folio, you'll notice that the room and tax charges appear on folio 8. And because this is associated with a City Ledger account, I can click City Ledger Transfer to manually transfer those charges over, or when I click Checkout, the system will do it for me automatically. So you'll notice here that instead of a payment method, it's actually showing me that these are going to be transferred to the City account for ABC Consultants when I click Checkout. Perfect. So once the guest is checked out, that's when the transfer occurs. If I go and take a look at this reservation in my checked out screen and take a look at the folio, you'll notice that there's a new line item added as part of that checkout where it transferred those charges to the ABC Consultants City Ledger account. I can go to the operations menu and select City Ledger, locate the ABC Consultants account, and I'm just going to double click here to open up the account. And here on the Invoices tab, this is where you will see those charges that have been transferred over from James Kidwell at the time of checkout. Right. So that process of transferring corporate guest charges to a City Ledger account, that's sometimes called direct billing or direct bill. That's commonly used if you have any corporate accounts that you maybe provide a corporate rate for the guests, and then you would send an invoice to the company after the guest has checked out. So you can send invoices directly from that City Ledger module. We saw a little preview of that there, but of course, if you'd like to learn more information about creating and managing City Ledger accounts and invoices and statements, things like that, definitely check out our City Ledger training webinar. That's available on our support website as well. Great. So another type of automated routing that I wanted to take a look at today is using the wholesaler accounts. It's going to be very similar to what we saw with the corporate accounts with a couple of little changes. So in this example, we're going to use room charges. We're going to route room charges using a wholesaler account. This video is about 2 minutes and 30 seconds in length. I just want to give an overview of the routing instructions and specifically the how charges are routed when it comes to wholesaler accounts and wholesaler reservations. This video will not show anything about how to create or manage wholesaler accounts and blocks. If you would like to learn more information about that, we do have a wholesaler training webinar that's available on our support website. This is going to breeze over a couple of the items in the wholesaler module, but if you'd like to learn more information about how to create and manage those wholesaler accounts and wholesaler blocks for your property, definitely check out our support website for a little more information there. So for this demonstration, I'm going to start from the operations menu and go to the wholesaler module. That's going to open up a list of all of my wholesaler accounts here. I'm just going to use Jack Travel as the example. And in the bottom left corner, I want to bring your attention down to the folio number. Here's where we put in the instructions for where room and tax goes to folio 8. And in the top right-hand corner, this is where we indicate the city ledger account that will be associated with this wholesaler. So it's Jack Travel Wholesaler. So once you ensure that that information is set up, and of course the rest of your wholesaler block and rates are set up, you can now make a reservation for a wholesaler guest. You're going to select the wholesaler client type and make sure that it's the correct wholesaler account there in the company field for Jack Travel. You'll go forward and book the rate and room type. And then here on the guest info tab, you want to make sure that you have the guest information. And down in the res note field, this is where you can indicate any routing instructions. So for this wholesaler account, the room and tax charges are going to the Jack Travel City Ledger account. Now that's all controlled by the wholesaler account itself. You'll notice I don't have to do anything on the routing tab on the reservation because that's already set up based off of this wholesaler account indicated on the reservation. If I move over to the folio tab for this guest that is checked in, I'll see that the room and tax charges post to folio 8, and I do also have that ability to manually transfer while the guest is still in-house, or at the time of checkout, I can click checkout, and you'll notice that that City Ledger transfer is already set up for me. So I can simply select checkout. And once that guest is checked out, let me just view that reservation here in my checked out screen, take a look at the folio, and I'll see that new line item has been added, letting me know that this room charge has been transferred to the Jack Travel Wholesaler account in the City Ledger module. So to review that information, I can go to the Operations menu and select City Ledger or F8 on my keyboard, locate the Jack Travel Wholesaler City Ledger account, and I'll just double click and select the invoices. And that's where I'll now see the charges for John Clark, my wholesaler guest. Right. So similar to the corporate account, routing only occurs at the time of checkout. So when I go ahead and check out that guest at the end of their stay, those charges are routed, automatically transferred over to the City Ledger account that was set up and associated with that wholesaler account. Now for our last example of automated routing, I'm going to take a look at routing room charges for a group block. Now, when it comes to group blocks, we actually have two billing methods that you can choose from and manage inside Roomkey. The first one is City Ledger account billing, and then the second is house account billing. So we're going to take a look at the billing to city ledger account first. In this example, we recommend using city ledger account billing if you have an existing corporate account or wholesaler account or some sort of city ledger account with an organization. So this might occur if you've got an established contract with a local business or organization, and they send a block of rooms or a block of guests to your property. In this example, I'm going to use a corporate or an executive meeting for Guilford Mining, where we'll see how the routing instructions are set up on the group block itself in the groups module. And then we'll see how those charges will transfer at the time of checkout. So when the guests are checking out, um, just a reminder that this video is only 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. It does not go into any detail about how to create and manage group blocks or group reservations. But if you would like to know more information about creating and managing groups, we do have a really great group webinar presentation that's available on our support website, which will go through the step-by-step of how to create the block and add the rates and reservations and things like that. But for our purposes today, this video here is just going to focus on the routing specifics of a group with billing to the city ledger account. Right. So to just review the group, I'm going to go to the operations menu and select groups. Here I have a Guilford Mining corporate meeting. I'm just going to double click on that group line item to open it up. So on screen here, I have the name of the corporation or the event, and then here in the attached note field, this is where I put my billing instructions, letting the team know that room and tax charges are going to a city ledger account. And on my contact and billing info tab, this is where I can indicate the room and tax charges are going to Folio 8, and I can attach the city account for Guilford Mining. You would complete the remaining steps for attaching rates and block, and I'm just going to jump ahead to our rooming list here. So when you have your reservations, your guests added, you want to make sure that in the F number column on the far right-hand side here, it shows the number 8. That ensures that those room and tax charges are going to Folio 8 for each one of those guests. Now, if I just go over here to our in-house reservations, I've got these guests, these group guests in-house. So once again, just reviewing that their reservation note appears attached, as well as their group information for Guilford Mining corporate meeting. Here on the Folio tab, I have the room charges and the ability to manually transfer, or when I click checkout, this will automatically enable that transfer over to the city ledger for Guilford Mining. Now this is an early checkout, so I'm just going to make sure that I have that noted here. So when I click checkout, perfect. Let me now show you what that looks like on the city ledger side of things. So in the operations menu, I'll select city ledger. I'll locate Guilford Mining and just double click on that account to open it up. And taking a look here at the invoices, you'll notice that I have one invoice for the entire group. So for the entire corporate meeting, I'm just going to double click on this invoice to show you the individual charges transferred over into this one invoice. So I'll just click the transferred button, and this is where you can see the individual guest room charges for Brian Yee and David Farley, and those have been transferred into this account as one single invoice. Hmm. So when you are using a group block to transfer charges to the city ledger account, it looks a little bit different than using a corporate or wholesaler. Um, in the event of a corporate and wholesaler, it just transfers the charges per guest. Each guest gets their own invoice. But when it's part of a group block, all of the guests within that group are on one single invoice in the city ledger. And again, if you'd like to know more information about managing invoices on the City Ledger or managing accounts and payments and things like that, definitely check out our City Ledger training webinar available on our support website. Great. Now let's take a look at that second example of billing for a group block. We've got a second example here. Instead of using a City Ledger account, this time we will be setting up billing to a house account. Now, both options are available in Roomkey, and as we saw with the City Ledger account, you might use that if you've got an established company that often sends you group members, or maybe they already have an established City Ledger account. When it comes to a house account, we might recommend using these for more transient type bookings. Sorry, not transient, but groups that are not likely to reoccur. So this might be wedding events that only occur once, or it might be some sort of social event. So instead of having to go through and create a City Ledger account and manage invoices, we can use what's called a house account inside Roomkey. Now, house accounts are treated like a standard reservation, so you will need to check in a house account at the beginning of the event and check it out at the end of the event. But they are not a guest room, so they do not affect your guest room inventory. Um, we do go over a little more information about house accounts in our front office operations training. So if you'd like to learn more information about house accounts, definitely check out our front office training webinar available on our support website. But this example here, this video is about 2 minutes and 30 seconds in length. This one is going to demonstrate or show an example of a family reunion group for the Smith family, and all room and tax charges are going to one house account and paid on one single bill using that house account tool here. So once again, here in Roomkey, I'm going to start from the operations menu and take a look at how the group is set up. So I'll go to the groups module. And this time I'm going to take a look at the Smith Family Reunion group. I'm just going to double click to open up this group in the group module. For this Smith Family Reunion, in the attach note field, I've noted that room and tax charges are going to be going to the house account for all guests. Over here on the contact and billing info, make sure that the folio number for room and tax is routed to folio number 8, but I do not need to attach any city account. I can go directly to my routing/deposit tab and add a house account. Now this house account has already been added, and you'll notice in the bottom right-hand side here, this is where I added my routing instructions. So my room charges are routed to this house account. 1396 is the res ID. You'll follow the remaining steps to complete the group block. And here on the rooming list, when you have those guest names added, you want to make sure that in the F number or folio number column on the far right, everything is going to folio 8. Great. So this group is in-house. Let me just jump over to my in-house group list. And for this guest, Michael Smith, he's part of the Smith family reunion. His routing instructions are noted here as a reservation note, and his group name is noted here, the Smith family reunion. On the guest folio, I'll see that the room charges are routed to folio 8. And because this routing or transfer does not occur until checkout, once you click the checkout button, you'll see that those room charges are now being transferred over to the house account, res ID 1396. I'll just go ahead and click OK to show what that looks like. Perfect. So I've just checked out Michael Smith, and I want to show you where his charges went to. So if I scroll down here, I have my house account for the Smith family reunion. If I go to the folio, you'll see those charges from Michael Smith's room. So his room charges are now transferred into this house account at the time of checkout. So that will repeat for all of the guests as part of this Smith family reunion. As they check out, the room and tax charges will transfer over to the house account, and then you can pay all of the room and tax charges for the whole group on one single bill using that house account. Great. Perfect. So that's the end of our examples here. Just taking a look at a bit of a summary. I know we went through quite a bit of information, but just a little recap here. We looked at what is charge routing and some specific notes as charge routing is related to performed inside Roomkey. Then we looked at some specific examples of how to route to the same booking between Folio 1, Folio 2, etc. We looked at how to route to a different booking between different guests, maybe kids' room charges being transferred to a parent's room charge. Then we looked at how to split charges using the route by amount feature in Roomkey, which is permission-based and optional, so it's not required for every scenario. And then we wrapped up our presentation here with a look at how to do those automated routing instructions based off of a corporate account, wholesaler account, or group block. So I'm just going to open up the floor here. I think we've got a couple of questions that have been added into our Q&A, so I'm just going to take a look here. Perfect. So we've got a couple of questions from Bill Myers. I'm just going to start with the first one here. Um, Bill asks, what happens if the hotel takes a deposit 2 days prior to arrival? So if you're taking a deposit 2 days prior to arrival, that will just appear as a payment on the guest reservation. So charges and payments, those do not um, move or route until if it is until the guest is checked in. So if it's being routed to a separate folio, um, that would happen at the time of check-in. If it's being routed to a different booking or if it's being routed to a separate account, that would occur at the time of checkout. So if you're taking a deposit, that deposit will just post to the reservation. It'll sit there until either the guest checks in or until the guest checks out. Okay. So another question from Bill was if you have a guest that is paying for if guest one is paying for guest two, but not the incidentals. And I think this kind of goes back to our first example there, or sorry, our second example of routing to a different booking. So I'm actually just going to bring up Roomkey and kind of show you how you can specify what charges are being applied where. So let me just bring up an example database here. Perfect. Okay, so when you are creating a reservation, I'm just going to use an example here of a new reservation and go to the routing tab. So when I was demonstrating, or when the video demonstrated how to route charges um, from the kids' room into the parents' room, so from guest one to guest two, I used the example of routing all charges. So when I used the transaction group all, that's going to route all charges. But in Bill's question, he's just asking if he can route charges but not the incidentals. And certainly you can. Instead of using the all selection here, you can choose room charge. And that will simply route the room charges. You would then follow the same process. Um, Over here, um, you would go to the filtered by. If the guest is in-house, you can use the in-house selection, but in most cases, you're setting up this routing in advance. So you'll use the reservations filter. And then from this drop-down menu, you can select the future guest. So I'll just use Simone Potter as the example here. When you click Add, this will now only route the room charges to the other guest. It will not route any incidentals, just those room charges there. I'm just going to cancel that here and go back to our presentation. Those are some excellent questions. I'm just going to leave the floor open for a little bit longer here. If you do have any other questions about routing that we looked at today, anything like that, go ahead and use the Q&A button. Okay, so I don't think we have any more outstanding questions. I just wanted to thank you once again for joining in for our presentation today. If you have a moment, please take a couple of minutes just to answer our survey. It's a couple of, I think it's two questions there. Um, and if you, again, if you do have any suggestions for future webinar presentations, we always appreciate that feedback as well. So thank you to everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be chatting with you again soon. Bye-bye.